Hey everyone, this is Joe coming to you from New Mexico. This is my morning author's script for this week, the week of July 28th. Usually publish on Tuesday or Wednesday. Kind of got away from me a little bit, but here we are on Tuesday. I'm going to try to start getting these out on Mondays. Um, Before we begin, I know last week I kind of talked about Readsy. This week, I'm going to talk about a little bit about what's called Draft, a digital platform. That's a platform that I just recently heard about. It's really good for new writers for getting stuff published. Just like any platform, they do charge you a little bit of money, but I know people have used it and liked a lot of the things about it. It helps you publish to Amazon, um, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, sorry, and some other places. And it's supposedly a pretty good platform to help you plan and organize and get you kicked off on your writing career. Like I said, not a paid endorsement whatsoever. It's just there for your information. Um, so this week's we're going to talk a little bit more about Rod. Rod was in the hospital the last one we left off. There had been some threats against his life while he was in the hospital. He's still there. So what's happening now? He's still there. He's under protection. Hannah, one of the characters, is she has been with him since basically they were in Arizona together. She transferred over to the Albuquerque office prior to, after the agents were killed in Phoenix. And since then, she has known Rod since that time, since he was temporarily assigned to that office and came back to Albuquerque. So she's staying in the hospital with him. She's providing protection for him right now. Um, he knows about the danger. He's finally come around from all the medications from his surgeries and kind of has a handle on what's going on with him now. Um, he's kind of sad because his family can't come to visit him. He has family out of state who want to come. But they've also been informed of the danger that they might be in if they were to come and visit him while he's in the hospital. Um, Also, for right now, they're seeking a safe house for him, and who's going to guard him while he's there. He needs time to recover before he can get back to the office, but you know, we're sort of up in the air with that. So one of the things that has been a question to me is why are people trying to keep him safe? Well, first of all, he's a federal agent. We want to keep our federal agents safe. Um, the other reason is the relationship he built with Hannah while they were in Phoenix, investigating that. They were the lead agents on that murder. Besides, some of the other folks that were there, those two gentlemen had mentored her when she was new. So that's in place. And then the reason I think we talked a little bit about the hospital hack system being hacked. The nurses also want to stay safe, but they also want to guard Rod. And that's just kind of the nature of being a nurse. I've been a nurse for a long time. You want to take care of your patients, you want to protect them, you want to keep them safe. You get into the business for wanting to care for people, save lives, um, keep them safe. Make sure that people get on the road to recovery and get better. And, just that generic, we all want to help people, just like firefighters, EMTs. I think I may have talked a little bit about that on here. That's part of my background. But you want to keep patients safe. And you want to keep them comfortable. You want to make sure they get on that road to recovery. As we say in healthcare, the road to recovery starts the moment the patient comes in the door. Um, and then discharge planning also starts at that time. Let's get them on the road to recovery so they can go home or wherever that intermediate place is going to be. For this case, it's going to be, have a safe house for Rod, because they have to keep him safe. They now know that the bad guys want him dead. Um, he was not, he was not supposed to survive what happened to him, but just by luck, those hikers found him in Box Canyon and was able to get help to him. Oops. Um, so this So that's kind of where we're still at right now. That's following through, a few more chapters. Is that keeping him safe, getting him somewhere safe. So upcoming in future chapters, we're going to have Maria getting back together with her father. Some of the other minor characters are going to come forward. And, we're still going to continue this mystery of, who's behind this besides um, just Alberto and his gang and why they're robbing trains. So to move on to a few other things here. Um, One is you probably noticed from the Des Linden book you can probably deduce that I do some running and have that as part of my past. Um, and so moving on to this week, book review is one of my favorite runners, Meb Keflezny. But I'm just going to call him Meb, just like everybody else does. Um, Meb is his book is 26 marathons, and what I learned um, from about faith, identity, running, and life from my marathon career. Let's see, we're going to. Bring up Meb here. There we go. So this is Meb's book cover. He wrote it with Scott Douglas, who is a writer with Runner's World magazine. So some of you may be familiar with that. He's from Eritrea, which is an African country. That's where he was born. It's near like Somalia, Ethiopia, that area. Um, he has won multiple marathon championships. He's a multiple time Olympian. While he was in college, he became a U.S. citizen, so he has competed for the U.S. in the Olympics in the marathon. He is still the only person in the world to win an Olympic medal in both the New York City and Boston marathons. Um, a little bit about him is he's a great champion. He's a better human being. That's what people have a tendency to say about him. This book kind of covers how he set his running goals and how hard he had to work to pursue and conquer those goals. Um, but what he also talks about is his life lessons learned along the way, from his struggles in a marathon, from things that happened to him before some marathons, to some things that happened to him after some marathons. Um, but he talks about these life lessons, and it also shows the value of reflection. And for those of, in healthcare and any aspect of life, really, we need to reflect on what we did right, what we've done wrong, how we've coped. Um, and and how to move forward. And this is kind of like his takeaway from life. His best takeaway is life is like the marathon race. There's ups, there's downs, but it's how you stay even keel and you cope with them, and not just make you a better racer, but also a better person, a better family man. And I think a lot of us can take away from that, being a better person. So that's kind of my quick review of this book for this week. This is one I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm usually not a person who reads a book, in like 2-3 days. This book I knocked out in like 2 or 3 days, just like the Des Linden book. It was a really quick read, but it's kind of interesting to find out about him. He also kind of goes behind the scenes on, we see some of these big endorsements that athletes have. He talks a little bit about those. And you know, one of the things that came up was, I think it was during one of his New York City marathons, he was given a brand new pair of shoes that he was supposed to wear. Um, and, part of the tag got caught down in his shoe and how that irritated him, but it showed that, you can persevere even when you have these little irritations in life. So, a lot to take away from Meb. Great book. I really enjoyed it. Um, I'll probably start getting into some novels for next week's video moving forward. I'm a big James Patterson fan. I've read a lot of James Patterson's books. So we'll probably get into some of those next week. Um, just a brief video for this week. I hope you all have a great day and a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.